Beloved, your special person took your photograph to a psychic. They did not tell you. They did not tell their family. And they definitely did not expect what happened next. Because the moment the psychic held your photograph, their entire expression changed. At first, they became completely silent. Then their hands started trembling. Your special person thought something was wrong. They asked, "What do you see?" The psychic did not answer. They kept staring at your face. And then something terrifying happened. Tears began rolling down their cheeks. Except these tears looked red. Almost like blood. Your special person immediately stood up. "What is happening?" The psychic put your photograph down, covered their face, and whispered, "You have no idea who this person really is to you." Beloved, your special person froze. Because they had gone there expecting something simple. They wanted an answer about whether you still cared. Whether you would come back. Whether the connection between you was truly finished. Perhaps your special person had been thinking about you more than usual. Maybe something recently brought your memory back. A song. An old message. A dream. Someone mentioning your name. And after months of pretending everything was fine, they finally admitted privately, "I need to know why I cannot let this person go." That is why they went to the psychic. Not because they wanted some dramatic prophecy. They wanted reassurance. Maybe the psychic would say, "It was only a lesson. Move on. You'll meet somebody else." Your special person thought hearing something definitive might finally quiet their mind. Instead, the psychic looked terrified. Beloved, before we go further, understand this as a dramatic spiritual story, not a guarantee that any psychic literally knows your future. The important part is what your special person is forced to confront. Because whether the psychic's reaction was mystical, symbolic, or simply overwhelming, the words spoken next exposed something your special person had been avoiding for years. They asked, "Why are you crying?" The psychic slowly looked up. Their eyes were red. Their breathing uneven. Then they said, "Because this person loved you during a period when you were actively teaching them how to survive without you." Beloved. That sentence hit harder than any prediction. Your special person immediately became defensive. That isn't true. The psychic asked, "Which part?" Your special person said nothing. Because deep down, they knew. There had been a period when you were still trying. You were still emotionally present. Perhaps you were asking questions. Trying to understand. Giving your special person chances to speak honestly. Maybe you said, "Tell me what's wrong. I can handle the truth. If you don't want this, just say it." But your special person did not give you a clear answer. Instead, they gave you inconsistency. Warmth followed by distance. Interest followed by silence. Perhaps promises without follow-through. And beloved, eventually you had to do what people do when someone refuses to give them certainty. You learned how to survive the uncertainty. Your special person remembers that now. The psychic touched your photograph again. Then said, they did not stop loving you when they walked away. Your special person looked up sharply. What? The psychic repeated, they left while they still loved you. Beloved, your special person had spent years telling themselves a different story. They believed you walked away because your feelings changed. Because maybe you found somebody better. Because you became bored. Because you realized the connection was too complicated. Your special person used that story to protect themselves. It was easier to say, they stopped loving me. Than, they loved me and still reached a point where staying hurt more than leaving. Those are very different realities. Your special person asked, how could you possibly know that? The psychic simply pointed toward your photograph. Then, I don't need to know every detail to see what you're carrying. Your special person became uncomfortable. What am I carrying? The answer, regret disguised as confusion. Beloved, that line changed the entire reading. Because perhaps your special person often says, I don't know why I still think about them. I don't understand why I compare everyone to them. I don't know why I feel like something is unfinished. The psychic challenged that. Maybe they do know. Perhaps the unfinished feeling is not mysterious at all. There were things left unsaid. Apologies never given. Truth never spoken. Your special person never received a clean ending because they never helped create one. They simply let silence take over. And beloved, silence rarely creates closure. It creates stories. You created yours. Your special person created theirs. Both may have been wrong in places. The psychic asked, when they asked you for clarity, what did you tell them? Your special person hesitated. I told them I needed time. How much time? Your special person looked down. The psychic asked again. How much? I didn't know. Beloved, there it is. Your special person wanted time without giving you any idea what the time was supposed to accomplish. Were they healing? Making a decision? Ending another situation? Preparing for commitment? They may not even have known themselves. But you were expected to remain emotionally available while they figured it out. The psychic said, they waited longer than you understood. Your special person became quiet. Then, they were patient with you until patience started becoming self-abandonment. Beloved, this is where the psychic's red tears supposedly began again. Your special person was disturbed. Why is this affecting you so much? The psychic wiped their cheek. Perhaps the redness had a mundane explanation. Irritation. A tiny broken vessel. Something dramatic looking in dim light. But your special person did not care about the mechanics anymore. They were listening. The psychic said, because I keep seeing someone standing at a door that was never fully opened and never fully closed. Your special person swallowed. That image was too accurate. You and your special person had lived in a doorway. Close enough to imagine a future. Not secure enough to live inside one. Perhaps your special person once said, "I don't want to lose you." And you thought, "Then choose me." But they did not. Perhaps they said, "You matter to me." You thought, "Then why do I feel so disposable?" The psychic said, "You gave them emotional evidence that they mattered and practical evidence that they didn't." Beloved, that contradiction is what exhausted you. You may have known they cared, but you needed care that could survive outside private emotion. And your special person failed there. They asked the psychic, "Is it too late?" Interesting. Because nobody had yet said you should reunite. Nobody had said you were waiting. But your special person's first fear was, too late. That revealed everything. The psychic noticed too. They asked, "Why would you ask that if you were truly done?" Your special person looked away. "I'm just asking." "No," the psychic said, "you came here because you wanted permission to keep pretending." Beloved, perhaps that made your special person angry. They stood up. This was a mistake. The psychic said, "Then leave." Your special person reached for your photograph. But the psychic placed one hand over it. "Before you go, answer one question." Your special person stopped. The psychic asked, "If this person called you tonight and said, 'I still love you, but I will never live in uncertainty with you again,' what would you do?" Beloved, your special person could not answer immediately. Because the first half was everything they secretly wanted. "I still love you." But the second half demanded something they had avoided. Clarity. No more hiding. No more taking emotional access without commitment. No more, maybe. Later. I don't know. Your special person whispered, "I would talk to them." The psychic asked, "Talk?" "Yes." "Or choose?" Beloved, that word frightened them. Choose. Your special person had spent so much of your connection trying to avoid a definitive choice. They wanted to keep you without risking everything. They wanted closeness without the possibility of total heartbreak. But love does not work like that forever. Eventually somebody asks, "Where do I stand?" And if you refuse to answer, life answers for you. The psychic said, "This is why they left." Your special person asked, "Because I didn't choose?" Because they finally had to. Beloved, that is perhaps what happened. You chose yourself. Maybe reluctantly. Maybe while crying. Maybe while still hoping your special person would stop you. But eventually you made the decision they would not. You said, "I cannot keep living like this." And walked. Your special person interpreted that as rejection. The psychic reframed it as survival. That changed something inside them. They sat back down. Then asked, "Do they hate me?" The psychic smiled sadly. Why are you more comfortable imagining hate than imagining disappointment? Beloved, powerful. Hate would make things simpler. If you hate your special person, then perhaps nothing can be done. They can remain passive. But disappointment? Disappointment means something mattered. It means perhaps you expected better because you believed they were capable of better. Your special person asked, "What do you see when you look at them?" The psychic stared at your photograph. "Then, I see someone who had to stop asking whether they were lovable and start asking whether this relationship was loving them well." Beloved, that may be your entire transformation. For a long time, perhaps you focused on, "Why am I not enough? What does the third party have? Why can't they choose me? What should I change?" Eventually the question matured. Is this relationship actually good for me? That is powerful. Because your worth and somebody else's capacity are not the same thing. Your special person may have loved you and still been incapable of giving you the consistency you needed at that time. That does not make your worth smaller. It makes their limitations relevant. The psychic said, "They stopped trying to convince you." Your special person frowned. "Convince me of what?" "That they were worth choosing." Beloved, perhaps you did. Maybe you over-explained. Tried to show loyalty. Tried to be understanding enough. Low maintenance enough. Patient enough. You may have believed if you made yourself safe enough, your special person would finally stop running. But another person's fear is not solved by you shrinking. Eventually you realized. And stopped. Your special person felt that shift. Maybe that is why they ended up here with your photo. Because your energy changed. You were no longer pulling on the connection. No longer sending invisible reassurance. Your special person began feeling the absence of what they once took for granted. The psychic asked, "When was the last time they chased you?" Your special person said, "They never chased." The psychic looked at them. "Really?" Then your special person remembered. Messages. Attempts. Conversations. Second chances. Maybe not dramatic chasing. But emotional effort. You had done more than they acknowledged. The psychic said, "They stopped because they learned the lesson you were supposed to learn." Your special person asked, "What lesson?" Love without boundaries becomes suffering. Beloved, that is where the reading became less about whether you are destined, and more about whether the connection can become healthy. What? If you still disappear when afraid, leave them alone. If you still need them to prove their love while you remain vague, leave them alone. If you still keep other people around as emotional insurance, leave them alone. If you still expect them to translate silence, leave them alone. Beloved, perhaps your special person had expected a psychic to. Your special person wanted to hear, "You belong together." Instead, the psychic kept talking about behavior. They said, "If you go back to this person exactly as you were before, leave them alone." Your special person looked shocked. Tell them the universe would fix everything. Instead, they were being told, "You have to change." That irritated them. And also awakened them. They asked, "So there's no chance?" The psychic replied, "I didn't say that." Then touched your photograph again. There is still something unfinished here. Your special person leaned forward. What? The psychic said, a truth they never heard. Beloved, there it is. The first real mystery. Something your special person never told you. Something that changes part of your history. The psychic asked, what happened the night before you became distant? Your special person went pale. How do you know there was a night? The psychic did not answer directly. Maybe they were reading body language. Maybe your special person had revealed more than they realized. Whatever the explanation, the question landed. There had been a night. Perhaps one particular conversation. You and your special person became unusually close. Maybe you finally admitted what you wanted. Perhaps your special person did too. It felt like the beginning of something real. Then the next day, they changed. You probably never understood why. Your special person had carried the reason alone. That night, after talking with you, they had received a call. Family. Past partner. Someone important. And they were told something that triggered an old wound. Perhaps, you're repeating your old mistake. Or, you barely know this person. Maybe, every time you fall in love, you lose yourself. Beloved, the exact words mattered less than the fear they activated. Your special person had gone to bed imagining a future with you. Then someone they trusted told them they were being reckless. By morning, fear had taken over. Instead of telling you, something was said to me and now I'm scared, they became colder. You interpreted the change as regret. Maybe, they regret opening up to me. In a way, they did. Not because the feelings were false. Because being exposed frightened them. The psychic said, they think you woke up and stopped caring. Your special person whispered, I know. Did you? No, then why did you let them believe it? Beloved, your special person's eyes filled with tears now. Real tears. No supernatural mystery. Just regret. They answered, I thought if I pulled back for a few days, would get myself together. A few days became longer. You reacted. They panicked. Then pride appeared. Soon the original reason became impossible to explain without admitting how badly they had handled everything. So they never explained it. The psychic said, that is the truth you owe them. Your special person looked at your picture. Maybe for the first time they imagined your side with full clarity. You had not known there was a trigger. You thought the warmth disappeared because it was fake. Perhaps that belief damaged you more than the distance itself. You questioned whether any intimate moment had been real. Your special person wants to tell you now, it was real, the morning after was fear. Not truth. But beloved, there is still more. The psychic asked, why do you still have their photograph? Your special person answered, I don't know. The psychic shook their head. You keep saying that. Then, you know. Your special person sighed. Perhaps the photograph was old. Not even a particularly glamorous image. But it was your face during a period when things felt simple. Maybe you were laughing. maybe looking away from the camera. Your special person kept it because it represented the version of your connection before fear corrupted everything. They once tried to delete it. Couldn't. Perhaps transferred it from one phone to another. For years. Not because they looked at it every day. Because deleting it felt too final. The psychic said, "You didn't bring me a photograph because you wanted to know who they are." Pause. You brought it because you want somebody else to tell you whether you have permission to tell them who you are now. Beloved. That is the real reason your special person came. They have changed. At least somewhat. Perhaps life humbled them. Relationships after you exposed patterns. Maybe they finally went through a period where somebody else treated them with the same inconsistency they once gave you. Suddenly they understood. Waiting for a reply. Wondering where they stood. Feeling close one day and disposable the next. Your special person hated it. Then one night the realization came, this is what I made them feel. That became the beginning of accountability. The psychic asked, "What are you going to do?" Your special person said, "I don't know if they want to hear from me." That isn't what I asked. Again. Your special person had spent years answering questions about their own responsibility with guesses about you. Would you answer? Would you care? Would you forgive? All valid concerns. But first, what are they willing to do? Your special person said, "I want to apologize." The psychic asked, "Even if they never take you back?" Your special person paused. Then, yes. Beloved, that answer matters. If the apology only exists to regain access to you, it is a transaction. If they can tell the truth even when the outcome may be rejection, the honesty has matured. The psychic said, "Then apologize." Your special person asked, "What if they've moved on?" Respect it. What if they're angry? Listen. What if they say it's too late? Believe them. What if they still love me? Beloved, the psychic looked at your special person for a long moment. Then said, "Do not confuse being loved with being forgiven." Powerful. Maybe you still love them. That does not mean trust returns instantly. Maybe attraction remains. That does not mean the old pattern should resume. If your special person approaches you, they need to understand, love is not a reset button. You may say, "Yes, I still care." And then, "But I need consistency." Your special person has to hear both. The psychic turned your photograph over. Then suddenly stopped. There was something written on the back. Perhaps your special person had forgotten. A date. Maybe a tiny note. Something connected to when the photograph was taken. The psychic asked, "What happened on this date?" Your special person's face changed. Beloved, the date meant something. It was the day they nearly told you everything. Perhaps you had spent hours together. At the end, your special person almost said, "I love you." They remember the exact moment. You were leaving. Maybe you looked back. Your special person thought, say it. Just say it. Instead, text me when you get home. Beloved, sometimes entire futures hide behind ordinary sentences. They wanted to say, stay. They said, drive safely. They wanted to say, I think I'm falling in love with you. They said, good night. That date became painful afterward. And perhaps your special person had written it behind your photograph because they privately considered it the day they realized what you meant. You never knew. The psychic saw their reaction. Then said, that was the moment. Your special person asked, what? The moment you knew. Beloved, your special person cried. Because yes. They knew. Long before the ending. Long before you walked. They knew they loved you. And still acted confused. That is one of the hardest truths. The psychic said, they deserve to know you weren't uncertain about their value. Your special person whispered, I was uncertain about myself. Exactly. Perhaps your special person believed, I am too damaged. Too complicated. Too unstable. They looked at your love and thought, eventually they will realize they made a mistake. So your special person decided to prevent the future rejection by making the relationship impossible first. Self-sabotage disguised as caution. Beloved, this explains behavior. It does not excuse it. Your special person must still own the impact. The psychic said, tell them that too. Then something unexpected happened. The psychic handed the photograph back. Your special person asked, that's it? The psychic said, no, then, there is one final thing. Beloved, the room became quiet. This was what your special person had really come for. Some final prediction. Will you reunite? Are you soulmates? Will you return? Instead, the psychic said, you keep asking whether they are your soulmate. Your special person nodded. The psychic replied, that question is distracting you from the one that matters. What question? Are you capable of being theirs? Beloved. That changes everything. It is easy to call someone your soulmate. Beautiful word. Powerful. Romantic. But what does it require? Can you be emotionally safe? Can you communicate? Can you remain honest when fear appears? Can you respect boundaries? Can you accept someone's no? Can you stop creating triangles? Can you give the kind of love you keep saying is destined? Your special person had been obsessed with whether the bond was meant to be. The psychic redirected them toward responsibility. Perhaps the red tears, the dramatic atmosphere, the frightening reaction, all of it became secondary. The real message was simple. If you want another chance, become capable of handling it. Your special person left the session holding your photograph. They sat in their car for a long time. Did not drive. They looked at your face. Then opened their phone. Your name was still saved. Perhaps your last conversation remained. Your special person scrolled. And beloved, suddenly they noticed something. Your last messages were not cruel. Maybe tired. But not cruel. Perhaps you had written, "I don't hate you. I just can't keep doing this to myself." Your special person had focused for years on, "I can't keep doing this." They ignored, "I don't hate you." That little detail changed something. It did not mean you still wanted them now. But it reminded your special person that the ending was not born from lack of feeling. It was born from self-preservation. They started typing. Hi. Deleted. Too casual. I went to see someone today. Deleted. You do not need the strange psychic story first. Then, there is something about how I handled us that I should have told you a long time ago. Your special person stared at it. Perhaps this is the message that eventually reaches you. Maybe they continue, "You may not want an explanation anymore, and I will respect that. But I need to correct something I allowed you to believe." Then, the morning I became distant, I had not stopped caring. Beloved, you read slowly. Your special person continues, "I got scared after realizing how serious my feelings had become, and instead of telling you that, I pulled away." Another message, "You spent too long thinking my distance meant you had imagined what was happening between us. Then, you didn't." Beloved, perhaps that one line hits. You didn't imagine it. Maybe you knew. The affection. The intensity. The way your special person looked at you. The future hidden inside conversations. All real. What was missing was the courage to sustain it. Then your special person writes, "I am not telling you this because I expect you to come back. I'm telling you because I finally understand that my silence made you carry an explanation that was easier for me and crueler to you." Beloved, that is accountability. Perhaps you reply, "What happened today?" Your special person hesitates. Then tells you, "I took your photo to a psychic." Maybe you laugh. What? I know. You ask, and? Your special person might say, "They said things I probably already knew and didn't want to admit." Beloved, grounded. Not, "The psychic guaranteed we will marry." No. Your special person understands now that no reader, sign, dream, or prediction gets to make your decision. Perhaps you ask jokingly, "What happened to them?" Your special person says, "They started crying." Why? Then, because apparently I'm an idiot. Beloved, perhaps for the first time in years there is a tiny moment of humor between you. But then your special person becomes serious. "They said something I can't stop thinking about." What? Your special person tells you, "They asked whether I was capable of being your soulmate, instead of obsessing over whether you were mine." Silence. Perhaps you feel something shift. Because this is different. Your special person is not talking about destiny. They are talking about responsibility. Maybe you say, "That's actually a good question." Your special person replies, "I know." Then, "I don't think I was before." Beloved, honesty. Not, I was perfect and circumstances ruined us. No, I wasn't. Then perhaps, I want to become someone capable of loving without making the other person pay for my fear. That is stronger than any psychic prediction. You may still say, that doesn't mean I want to try again. Your special person responds, I understand. Beloved, watch that response. That is part of the test. Do they respect your answer when it does not immediately reward their growth? If yes, something may truly have changed. Perhaps you say, I need time. They answer, take it. No deadline. No pressure. Maybe you never reopen the relationship. The conversation still matters. You receive validation. The connection was not fake. You were not foolish. Your special person was afraid. They mishandled something real. You both move forward with clearer truth. Or perhaps, slowly, there is another opening. Not because a psychic said you are destined. Because two adults choose to explore whether the current versions of themselves can build what the old versions could not. You tell your special person, no disappearing. They agree. No third parties. Agreed. If you're scared, say you're scared. They smile slightly. That one might be hard. You answer, then practice. Beloved, that is real. Not magical. Practice. Love as behavior. Perhaps weeks later, the first test arrives. Your special person feels overwhelmed. Their old instinct, withdraw. They almost do. Then remember the session. They send, I'm having the urge to disappear today because I'm overwhelmed. I don't want to repeat that pattern. I need tonight, but I'm not leaving. Beloved. There. That is the transformation. Not psychic tears. Communication. You say, okay. Thank you for telling me. The next day they return. Promise kept. Trust begins rebuilding through ordinary moments. Perhaps one day you ask, do you still have that photo? Your special person laughs. Yes. Why? They look at you. Because it reminds me of the day someone finally told me that loving you secretly wasn't enough. Beloved, maybe that becomes the true meaning of the photograph. Not proof of mystical destiny. A reminder. The person in the photo deserved clarity. The person holding it needed courage. And perhaps the strange psychic encounter simply created the moment when avoidance finally became impossible. Your special person may tell you one more thing. When they started crying, I thought they were going to tell me something terrible about you. You ask, like what? I don't know. Something dark. And what did they actually say? Your special person smiles sadly. That the terrible thing wasn't about you. Pause. It was what I had done with something good because I was afraid to lose it. Beloved, perhaps that is the biggest revelation. Your special person went looking for a supernatural explanation for why they could not forget you. Instead, they found a human one. They loved you. They were afraid. They failed to communicate. You protected yourself. And unfinished truth kept pulling at them. No curse. No dark force. No mysterious third party controlling everything. Just choices. Fear. Love. Regret. And the possibility of doing better. Perhaps that is why the psychic's final warning stays with your special person. Before they left, the psychic supposedly said, if they come back into your life, do not make them prove the bond again. Your special person asked, what do you mean? The answer, they already proved they could love you. Then, you need to prove you can love them without making them lose themselves. Beloved. That is the challenge. Your special person does not need more confirmation that the connection mattered. They need to behave like it matters. And you do not need to perform unlimited patience to prove you are their soulmate. You need boundaries. Discernment. Freedom. If their actions remain inconsistent, the psychic story changes nothing. If they become honest, stable, respectful, and present, then perhaps something new becomes possible. Beloved, your special person took your photo to a psychic because they wanted an answer about you. Why can't I forget them? Will they return? Are they still connected to me? Instead, they came home with questions about themselves. Why did I hide? Why did I run? Why did I expect them to wait? Why did I confuse fear with intuition? Why did I tell myself love was impossible instead of admitting I was unprepared? Those questions are changing them. And perhaps somewhere tonight, your photograph is sitting beside their phone. Your special person is staring at both. One represents the past. The other gives them the ability to do something about the present. Perhaps they type, I don't know whether there is anything left between us. Then, but I finally know what I should have told you when there was. A pause. I loved you. Another line. I got scared. Another. And I'm sorry I made my fear look like a lack of love. Beloved, maybe you receive that message. Maybe not. But if you do, remember, you are not obligated to return because somebody cried. Not the psychic. Not your special person. Emotion is information. Not obligation. The real question is whether the person who once left you guessing has finally learned to speak clearly. Because that is what will determine whether this connection has any future worth exploring. They walked out understanding something much more important. Destiny means very little if fear is still making every decision, so if your special person truly wants another chapter with you, beloved, they cannot simply say, you are my soulmate. They must become capable of saying, I am scared, but I am staying honest. I love you, but I respect your. And perhaps that is the secret your special person never expected to discover when they carried your photograph through that psychic's door. They thought they were going there to find out whether you were destined for them. Choice. I miss you, but I will not manipulate your boundaries. I want you, but I will prove that through consistency rather than intensity. That is what changes everything. And maybe the most shocking thing the psychic saw was never something supernatural hiding inside your photograph. Maybe it was the simple tragedy of seeing two people with real feelings lose each other because one of them kept waiting for fear to disappear before choosing love. Your special person finally understands that fear may still exist. But this time, if they truly want you, fear cannot be the one speaking for them.